the foundational truth, value, price, and the irresistible offer, 100 offers. The entire edifice of the Hormozi framework rests upon a singular, irreducible truth. A business only exists to create and capture value. The magnitude of the value captured is directly proportional to the magnitude of the value created. This is the first principle of all commerce. The core thesis of 100 offers is not about manipulative sales tactics or clever copywriting. It is about systematically engineering a product, service, and delivery mechanism that makes the potential buyer's perceived outcome so overwhelmingly positive that the monetary cost becomes an almost trivial consideration. The goal is to make the decision to purchase a simple matter of net value calculation for the prospect, where the cost of the transaction is dwarfed by the cost of not transacting or the perceived potential gain. Axioms of value engineering. The concept of value is not solely rooted in the objective cost of materials or labor, but rather in the subjective perceived distance between the prospect's current painful reality, A, and their desired aspirational future, B. The irresistible offer is simply the mechanism, the vehicle, that credibly and demonstrably bridges this gap. This leads to the fundamental value equation, which can be expressed as text, value, AFRAC, ein text, dream outcome, n times in text, perceived, likelihood of achievement, text, time delay, in times a text effort are in sacrifice. This equation is the axiomatic core of value creation. To create an irresistible offer, one must increase the numerator and decrease the denominator. Increasing the numerator, dream outcome and certainty. The dream outcome is the ultimate emotionally resonant aspirational state the customer wishes to achieve. It is not the feature of the product, e.g., a course on investing, but the identity-level transformation, e.g., financial freedom, being able to quit a hated job and providing for one's family. A first principles approach demands that the entrepreneur must first be a psychologist, understanding the deepest, most primal desires and fears of the target market. A great offer must identify a hair-on-fire problem and articulate the escape from that pain in vivid, compelling terms. The principle here is specificity enhances credibility. Generic promises of success are worthless. Specific, quantified, and qualified promises are powerful. The perceived likelihood of achievement, certainty, is a psychological principle of risk mitigation. Customers inherently fear loss, failure, and being scammed. The offer must therefore systematically de-risk the transaction. This is done through social proof, testimonials, case studies, volume of sales, mechanisms, the proprietary process that makes success more certain, and most powerfully, the guarantee. A truly irresistible offer leverages an inverse relationship between the quality of the product and the risk shouldered by the customer. The highest level guarantee is not a simple money-back promise, but an unconditional, success-based promise that shifts the risk entirely to the business. This is a manifestation of the entrepreneur's profound conviction in their own solution, which acts as a transfer of certainty to the prospect. Decreasing the denominator, time and effort. The denominator represents the friction in the journey from A to B. Humans are fundamentally wired for instant gratification and minimal exertion. Time delay is the time it takes for the prospect to realize the dream outcome. The first principle here is speed as a commodity. The business that can deliver the desired outcome fastest wins. This necessitates process optimization, done-for-you services, and the elimination of unnecessary steps. The key is to sell acceleration, the ability to compress a 10-year result into 1 year. Effort and sacrifice is the total mental and physical energy the prospect must expend. The principle is, eliminate the work. The offer should package the solution in a way that minimizes the need for the customer's effort, e.g., done-for-you services, pre-built templates, guided training. Sacrifice refers to the trade-offs the customer must make, e.g., giving up time with family, learning a complex new skill. The role of the entrepreneur is to absorb the complexity and deliver simplicity, making the purchase a net gain of time and energy rather than a drain. The profitability principle, value stacking and price-to-value disparity. The creation of an irresistible offer requires a strategic value stack, a grouping of component parts, products, services, bonuses, guarantees that collectively have a perceived value significantly greater than the asking price. Text perceived value of stack NGG untext asking price. The entrepreneur must first identify a high-value core service and then strategically bundle lower-cost, high-leverage services around it. The principle of bundling is not to simply add more features, but to add components that enhance the value of the core deliverable or address the primary objection of the prospect. Each component added to the stack should exponentially increase the perceived value while only linearly increasing the cost of delivery. The final critical first principle is the concept of price anchoring and disparity. The offer is not made in a vacuum. By showcasing the collective itemized retail value of the value stack, $10,000, and then presenting the significantly reduced investment price, $1,000, the offer creates a massive, undeniable gap. This gap is the margin of perceived value. A massive disparity between perceived value and price triggers a psychological reaction, the feeling of stupid for saying no. This is the highest form of ethical salesmanship, as the business is genuinely providing a disproportionate amount of value for the price. In summary, the first principle of 100 offers is that business success is a function of engineering perceived value that exponentially exceeds the cost to the customer. It is a challenge to the entrepreneur to cease focusing on price competition and instead focus on monopoly creation through radical differentiation and superior value delivery. The irresistible offer is the physical manifestation of this value proposition, a mechanism designed to overcome inherent human skepticism and inertia by strategically addressing the four core drivers of value: dream outcome, certainty, time, and effort. This is the prerequisite for scaling. You must have a product the market wants before you can scale the system that delivers it. The engine of growth: scarcity, attention, and abundant leads, 100 leads. If the irresistible offer is the engine of the business, then leads are the fuel. The second foundational truth, explored in 100 leads, is that economic value only flows to those who command attention and have a predictable system for transforming that attention into qualified interest. In a world saturated with information, the ultimate commodity is not data or even product, but focused, intentional attention. Axioms of attention and market creation. The first principle of lead generation is the understanding of market awareness stages. A business cannot sell a technical solution to a prospect who is unaware they have a problem. The core task of lead generation is to meet prospects exactly where they are on their awareness journey and gently guide them to the next stage. This journey can be simplified into 4 key stages. Unaware. The prospect doesn't know they have a problem. Lead generation task. Problem awareness. Problem aware. The prospect knows they have a problem, but not the solution. Lead generation task. Solution awareness. Solution aware. The prospect knows the general solution but not your specific product brand. Lead generation task. Product brand awareness. Product aware. The prospect knows your product but hasn't bought it yet. Lead generation task. Offer awareness incentive to buy. The fundamental error most businesses make is trying to sell their product to the unaware segment. A first principles approach demands that content, marketing, and advertising must be perfectly matched to the prospect's current awareness stage. The second foundational truth is the scarcity of attention and the abundance of platform. Attention is a scarce resource, yet the mechanisms for distributing information, the platforms, social media, search engines, are effectively infinite and universally accessible. The entrepreneur's task is to leverage the free distribution provided by the platforms to capture the scarce attention of the ideal prospect. Leveraging distribution, content, and reach. The lead generation framework is built upon two core strategies: organic outreach and paid acquisition. Both strategies are governed by the principle of value-first exchange. A lead is a permission-based relationship, not a transaction. Organic outreach, content creation. The core principle is generosity as a hook. To earn attention, the business must give away genuine, high-value information that solves micro-problems for free. This content as lead magnet strategy operates on the principle of reciprocity. The more value freely given, the more likely the prospect is to reciprocate with their attention, trust, and ultimately their information, the lead. The content must be contrarian. It must challenge conventional wisdom to stand out. High leverage. It must solve a major problem that relates directly to the paid offer. Context specific, tailored to the unique rules and formats of the platform it's being distributed on. The goal of organic content is to earn the retained attention of the audience by building a bank of goodwill and trust, which dramatically lowers the cost of future paid acquisition. Paid acquisition, advertising. The core principle here is leveraging arbitrage. Advertising is simply buying attention at a low price to sell an offer that generates a high price. The critical first principle metric is ad spend to customer value ratio. Paid ads must not only pay for themselves, but also drive profit. Successful paid acquisition rests on the hook, the mechanism used to stop the scroll and command attention, the creative, the angle, the unique narrative or reason why this offer is relevant to the prospect now, the offer message, the mechanism, the proprietary way the offer works, which provides differentiation and certainty. The most effective lead generation mechanism is the lead magnet, a free, high-value, instant gratification piece of content, e.g., checklist, template, short guide, exchanged for the prospect's contact information. The principle is low-friction commitment. The prospect must be given an extremely low-cost or no-cost way to move from being an anonymous viewer to a known contact. The conversion principle, nurturing and qualification. The third foundational truth is that leads have an expiration date on interest. A business must have a systematic, automated process to nurture the lead from the point of capture to the point of purchase. This is the follow-up and nurture sequence. Nurturing through education. The I.E. nurturing process is governed by the principle of mass education to individual commitment. The goal is to educate the prospect on three things. The problem. Deepen their understanding of the pain, opportunity they face. The solution. Convince them that the category of solution offered is the correct one. The mechanism. Your product. Prove that your specific product service is the best vehicle to deliver the solution. This is done through a structured sequence of communication, email, SMS, video, that continuously provides value and strategically addresses the prospect's likely objections before they are raised. Qualification and commitment. Not all leads are created equal. The principle of qualification is essential for effective use of sales resources. A business must build tripwires or micro-commitments into the lead journey that force the prospect to self-qualify. These can be application forms, requiring detailed information about their current situation, small paid products, tripwires, a low-cost offer that validates the prospect's willingness to spend money. Engagement, metrics, tracking who consumes the most content, opens the most emails, or watches the most webinars. The ultimate goal of the entire 100-member lead system is to produce a qualified prospect who has already been thoroughly educated and believes in the solution, making the final sales conversation less about convincing and more about logistics and commencement. The system aims for pre-sold prospects. This is the first principles application of leverage, using automated systems to do the heavy lifting of education and qualification, reserving human interaction for the highest leverage activity. Closing. The sale. In summary, the first principle of 100 members leads is that consistent business growth is an engineering problem of systemically converting scarce attention into abundant, qualified, and pre-sold prospects. This is achieved by generating value-rich content tailored to a prospect's awareness, leveraging platform distribution for reach, and deploying a rigorous, multi-step nurture sequence to systematically educate and qualify them for the irresistible offer. The business must become a relentless, value-based educator that uses reciprocity and attention arbitrage to fuel the sales engine. The leverage multiplier, capital allocation and compounding business models, 100 money models. The final pillar of the Hormozi framework, 100 money models, shifts the focus from the tactical creation of the offer and the generation of the GYO, lead to the strategic long-term architecture of the business itself. The foundational truth here is that sustainable hypergrowth wealth is not the result of a single brilliant idea, but the systematic, disciplined, and leveraged allocation of capital, money, time, and human talent into business models that possess inherently superior compounding characteristics, axioms of capital and constraint. The first principle that governs all financial models is the capital allocation constraint. Every business operates with finite resources, whether that is cash, time, or human capacity. The highest leverage activity for the entrepreneur is to ruthlessly identify where the next unit of capital, be it $1 or 1 hour of time, will generate the highest return on investment, ROI. This leads to the core business models principle. Certain structures inherently possess higher ROI potential. Hormozi simplifies the business landscape into 3 main high-leverage models: high-ticket services, coaching, consulting. The primary leverage is price and gross margin. It requires a high level of expertise and a low-cost delivery model, typically time remote coaching. First principle: value is not tied to cost of goods sold, but to cost of problem solved. High margin allows for massive ad spend and high customer acquisition costs, which act as a barrier to competition. SaaS, software as a service. The primary leverage is scale and automation. High initial capital time investment but near zero marginal cost of delivery. First principle: profitability is a function of recurring revenue, MRR, ARR, and low churn. The goal is to monetize the utility of the solution itself, turning a single transaction into a long-term subscription relationship. Physical products e-commerce with a twist. While traditional retail has lower margins, the high-leverage model focuses on high average order value, AOV, and back-end sales. First principle: the profit is in the follow-up. The first sale is often just a break-even transaction to acquire a customer. The wealth is created in the lifetime value, LTV, through subsequent highly profitable upsells and cross-sells of complementary products. The entrepreneur's strategic task is to select and commit to one model, or strategically blend them, e.g., using a high-ticket service model to fund the creation of a SaaS model based on where the highest return on their unique resource, e.g., deep domain expertise, programming skill, existing customer list, lies. The leverage principle, team and time beyond financial capital. The principles apply most acutely to the allocation of time and the acquisition of talent. The principle of personal leverage dictates that the founder must systematically transition from being a producer, doing the work, to an owner, architect, designing the system. Text, entrepreneurial value. Context, time spent on vision, strategy, and scaling systems. The first principle's approach to team building is not about simply hiring people, but about delegation of the process, not the task. Every task in the business must be documented, systematized, and turned into a standard operating procedure, SOP. This creates an asset that can be passed to a new team member with minimal loss of quality or time. The SOP is the mechanism for transferring the founder's knowledge into the DNA of the organization, making the business person independent. The most critical hire is the integrator or general manager, the person who can run the day-to-day operations and manage the team, freeing the visionary, the founder, to focus on the highest leverage activities, new offers, new lead systems, and strategic capital allocation. The hiring principle is hire for attitude, train for skill, and, crucially, pay for performance, PFP. incentivizing team members with commissions and bonuses tied directly to the business's key performance indicators, KPIs, thus aligning the team's economic self-interest with the company's growth. The compounding principle, LTV and acquisition cost. The ultimate determinant of a business's long-term value is its ability to sustainably acquire customers for less than their lifetime value, LTV. This is the unit economics axiom, text profitability, num propto, untext LTV, untext customer acquisition cost, CAC. At times, untext volume, LTV, is increased through high offer price, charging the true value of the irresistible offer, high retention, low churn, delivering exceptional value to keep the customer, recurring revenue. Back-end offers, strategically layering upsells, downsells, and cross-sells onto the customer journey. This relates back to the value stack principle, but applied post-sale CAC is controlled by conversion rate, improving the offer and sales script funnel so a higher percentage of leads buy, a function of 100 mm offers, lead quality, improving targeting, and nurturing to produce pre-sold qualified leads, a function of $100 leads. Referral systems, creating an experience so remarkable that customers are incentivized to bring in new customers for free. The principle of compounding reinvestment is the capstone. Every profit dollar must be seen not as a personal expense, but as fuel for the machine. The optimal model is to reinvest a majority of the profit back into the highest ROI area, often more 100 mm leads, paid advertising, or more team, to scale. The delivery of the $100 offer. The company must strive for a virtuous cycle where high LTV allows for high CAC, which drives massive volume, which in turn drives down delivery costs through scale, increasing LTV further. This continuous, aggressive, and disciplined reinvestment creates the compound effect that leads to exponential growth, the 100 mm outcome. In summary, the first principle of 100 mm money models is that business wealth is an outcome of intentional financial architecture where capital is systematically allocated to high-margin, scalable models, and leverage is maximized through process-driven delegation. The founder's role is to relentlessly optimize the LTV-CAC ratio and to continuously pour fuel, profit, onto the most productive fire, the acquisition system, until the business achieves escape velocity and its growth becomes an internal, self-sustaining mechanism. The entire 100 mm framework is a closed-loop system. Offer generates margin, margin funds leads, leads convert to customers, and customers fuel the money models.